contact information. That way I can know a little bit about you. Also on the table there is a coloring sheet of, Linton's coloring sheet. One of them is Be Kind, which matches our theme for the day. And then during the season of Lent, we'll have the piece of paper that has half coloring sheet and half meditation and reflection. And so I invite you to, color while you're here or color at home, but take that home with you because it's an extension of what we talk about here on Sunday morning and some thoughts to kind of guide you throughout the week. And as well, there is a day-by-day reflection as well and readings for you. And if that weren't enough, there are Lenten devotional guides also for you to pick up on the back table. This is going to be, I'm going to let you have at it for this week, and then whatever's left over I'm going to bring over to campus tonight. So if you want any more, you do not need to limit yourself to one. You may take many, because I know some of you are overachievers. And notice that there's different ones. There's ones for family that have nice little sticker books, so if you want to get in touch with your inner child or you have a child, take the one with the stickers. There's one there that's designed specifically for youth on what's trending now. And then there's some other ones for those of you who want the ultimate adult challenge. So help yourself to all of that. What I want you to do, and of course help yourself to the refreshments that Stan and Emery and Beverly brought for us today. So what I want you to do, talk amongst yourselves at your table. First of all, how many of you played musical chairs at some point? Okay. What I want you to do is talk amongst yourselves about your most recent experience of musical chairs. My recent experience, I play with college students. We play at our interfaith barbecue and cookout every year, twice a year. Nothing says interfaith unity like pushing each other to the ground to get a chair. And college students do not play nice musical chairs. They play mean, cutthroat musical chairs. So that's my last experience with musical chairs. We're always glad when musical chairs comes to an end and no one has been hurt. Like that requires a trip to the emergency room. People get hurt, but we don't bring them there. So anyway, talk amongst yourselves about your last experience of musical chairs and what that was like. Go. We can recreate in our face musical chairs, because I know which one of you would be pushing the other one to the ground. Truly, my last experience of musical chairs, we had one of our Muslim students, like totally in her hijab and everything, like pushing one of our big Catholic boys to the ground to win. It was amazing. So today our text is it's not musical chairs, but it's a story of James and John, two of the disciples, vying for a place of power and deciding on the chair issue, who would get the best chairs in the house. So that's just a little leeway. Andrea's going to get us started with our call to worship.
Someone take your chair.
I knew this would go well for Tiffany. I know you did so well.
Good morning. Please join me in our entry into worship. In this important season, we learn that we are important to God and that each person is valued. So let us lay down worship. In that place where God's people find fullness in life and learn to share the fullness with others.
I was going to say, it says in prayer, there's no prayer. Amen. During Lent, we remember the events that led up to the crucifixion. Jesus had come to bring hope and light to the world, but at every step there were those who willingly tried to put out that light. He brought grace and forgiveness, but these gifts were often rejected by those who were filled with hatred and with fear. We read this in the Gospel of Matthew, the 12th chapter. It was the Sabbath, and Jesus went to the synagogue, where there was a man with a paralyzed hand. And some people were there who wanted to accuse Jesus of doing wrong, so they asked him, "Is it against our law to heal on the Sabbath?" And Jesus answered, "What if one of you had a sheep, and it falls into a deep hole on the Sabbath? Will you not take hold of it and lift it out? And a man is worth so much more than a sheep. So then, our law does allow us to help someone on the Sabbath." And then Jesus said to the man with the paralyzed hand, "Stretch out your hand." And the man stretched out his hand, and it became well again, just like the other one. Then the Pharisees left and made plans to kill Jesus. Even when Jesus was healing, there were those who could not accept the power and the mercy of God. As the Pharisees left to make plans to kill Jesus for healing on the Sabbath, a little bit of the light which had come into the world was snuffed out by people Jesus had come to help. And so we extinguish our second Lenten candle, symbolizing the increasing darkness as we make it through this season. And I invite you to respond with our song of response.
My heart, oh stains are washed away, we're washed away. When we've been there 10,000 years, blood shining as the sun.
for the day, and it comes to us from the Gospel of Mark.
Today's reading is from Mark 10:32 through 52. James and John, Zebedee's sons, came to Jesus and said, "Teacher, want you to do for us whatever we ask." "What do you want me to do?" he asked. They said, "Allow one of us to sit on your right and the other on your left when you enter your glory." Jesus replied, "You don't know what you're asking. Can you drink the cup I drink, or receive the baptism I receive?" "We can," they answered. Jesus said, "You will drink the cup I drink and receive the baptism I receive. But to sit at my right or left hand isn't mine to give. It belongs to those for whom it has been prepared." Now, when the other 10 disciples heard about this, they became angry with James and John. Jesus called them over and said, "You know that the ones who are considered the rulers by the Gentiles show off their authority over them, and their high-ranking officials order them around. But that's not the way it will be with you. Whoever wants to be great among you will be your servant. Whoever wants to be first among you will be the slave of all. For the human one did not come to be served, but rather to serve, and to give his life to liberate many people." James and his followers came into Jericho. As Jesus was leaving Jericho, together with his disciples and a sizable crowd, a blind beggar named Bartimaeus, Timaeus' son, was sitting beside the road. When he heard that Jesus of Nazareth was there, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, show me mercy." Many scolded him, telling him to be quiet, but he shouted even louder, "Son of David, show me mercy." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him forward." They called the blind man. "Be encouraged, get up, he's calling you." Throwing his coat to the side, he jumped up and came to Jesus. Jesus asked of him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said, "Teacher, I want to see." Jesus said, "Go, your faith has healed you." At once he was able to see, and he began to follow Jesus on the way. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Entitled "What Do You Want?" Which I found in one of the publications I subscribe to called Spilled Beans. There were 3 men who wanted something. 3 men who wanted something from Jesus. 2 men came confidently from his closest circle. 1 man shouted from afar, a stranger in the crowd. 2 men came and demanded, "Jesus, do what we ask." The 1 man came and begged, "Jesus, have mercy." When others heard the demand of the 2 men, they were indignant and angry. When others heard the cry of the 1 man, they rebuked him and told him to be quiet. Jesus was easily approached by the 2 men. Unbeckoned, they came. Jesus was out of reach by the 1 man. But Jesus stopped for the 1 man and said, "Call him." And he came. The 2 men wanted to be seen, the one man wanted to see. The two men wanted glory, the one man wanted to see. The two men wanted places of honor, the one man wanted to see. Jesus raised many questions with the two men. Jesus demonstrated a straight answer for the one man. Eventually, Jesus said to the two men, "No, I can't give you what you demand." And immediately, Jesus said to the one man, "Yes, I can give you what you ask." Jesus, with many words, reasoned with the two men that their minds might be changed. And then Jesus, with a few words, released the one man that his life might be changed. The two men heard, and they didn't get it. The one man did hear, and he got it. The two men followed Jesus on the way. The one man followed Jesus on the way. There were three men who wanted something, and they followed Jesus on the way. So all three men followed Jesus on the way. But let's face it, it's the blind man who sees that day, right? He is healed. He sees the one who came to serve, not to be served. It is James and John, who we just kind of want to shake our heads at, who are totally unable to see what's happening around them. Instead of focusing on giving, they are focused on getting. What's in it for me, they ask. Instead of what can I do for you, their question is what can you do for me? We can see that now, right? But seeing that things that way isn't always quite that easy. Seeing ways to serve instead of being served is, I believe, easier said than done. There has been a lot of talk this past week about the marks of a real Christian, right? In the midst of all of the musical chairs and vying for power, in the midst of what's in it for me and I want to be at the top and I want to have the place of the honor, Jesus responds, and he makes it pretty darn simple, actually. He, once again, flips it all upside down. Last week, we heard him lay out one of the distinguishing features of what makes a follower of Christ. Remember last week, he redefined wealth. And he talked about the first being last and the last being first. This week, he flips it upside down again, and he redefines power. Jesus says to them, I came to serve, not to be served. Whoever wants to be great must be the servant of all. Wow, what a flip, right? James and John saw greatness as an opportunity for more. James and John saw greatness as an opportunity to get things the way that they wanted things to be. They would sit on the right and they would sit on the left, and they would call the shots. They would define how things in the world were going to be. James and John thought greatness involved being served and having everyone else around them kind of do their bidding. It's all in the eyes, you see. It's just not what we see. It's who we see. and how we see them. See, James and John had this issue. Their own self-interest blinded them to what really mattered in following Christ. They were blind to the needs around them. I think our blindness can take a lot of different forms. Sometimes I think our blindness has something to do with the fact that we simply don't want to see. I mean, have you ever turned away from things that were just too ugly to watch? Sometimes our blindness takes the form of we're just too darn busy to see. I had this legendary thing happen to me, which my students remind me of often. Oftentimes when I go into the campus center, I am there on a mission. And I don't really enjoy the campus center, so my mission in going to the campus center is to get in and get out as fast as I can. But you see, the thing about the campus center is that's where students hang out. And usually on my way to the office, or whatever office I'm going to do my thing to get in and get out as fast as I can, I usually go zipping by some of my students who do one of these and then go, you know, like how embarrassing it is when you're waving at somebody and trying to get their attention, but they're not seeing you, and you kind of go, oh, awkward. And they remind me of that often. Sometimes our blindness is that we're just simply too busy to see. I think sometimes our blindness almost comes naturally. It's the way that we're trained. We're not even trained to see some things around us anymore. I think the challenge that James and John and Bartimaeus give to us, the challenge is to open our eyes and take our blinders off and to see again what greatness looks like. Here's some examples of what greatness looks like. Remember the Pope when he came to visit? There are great pictures all over. This is a great Pope who went and hung out with homeless people. Here he is in a jail, hanging out with inmates. People that we oftentimes don't see because in our culture we lock them away and put them off somewhere where we don't have to look at them all day. We put our blinders on. Greatness looks like this: taking time for someone who may be an elderly person, an elderly neighbor, an elderly friend, who oftentimes also in our society, where do we put them? Into nursing homes and care centers where we don't have to see them. Greatness can look like this: seeing a homeless person instead of walking around them or going to the other side of the street. And sometimes greatness even looks like this: taking time for a child. Jesus talked about greatness being serving the widows and the orphans. We have different labels today. What does it mean to be great in our world? I want to invite you to just a little time of reflection. And what I'm going to invite you to do this each day, each Sunday in Lent, is to consider what it means to kind of let go. Oftentimes in Lent, how many of you have given something up for Lent? Yeah, some of you are like Catholics and it's ingrained in you, right? So we oftentimes think of Lent as a time to give up something. And this year, as we started to do last week, I want you not only to consider letting go of some things that distract us and holding us back from truly experiencing God, but I want you to consider, as you let go or hold more loosely something, then your hands are open to embrace something as well. So as you let go, what is it you need to embrace during this season as well to help you on the journey? So I want you to consider, as we reflect on James and John and Bartimaeus, can you give up your blinders? What would happen if we let go of seeing things the way we normally do? What if we could really honestly entertain a new point of view, a new perspective that allowed us to see things differently? What would change if we really became intentional about seeing the world through new eyes? Eyes that focused on love and grace and healing go of our blinders and our busyness and the way we normally see things and kind of slowed down and looked around us and looked for ways that we could be great through service. So I invite you to kind of reflect on that. Dan is going to play and sing a song, Open Our Eyes, Lord. If you want to sing along, you can, or if you want to just use the time for meditation and reflection about what that might mean for you in this season, I invite you to do what you need to do in the next few moments. We add to that prayer our prayers for others and for ourselves, both our prayers of praise and thanks and our prayers of concern. So as we prepare to light our candles, I invite you to our responsive call to prayer. Holy God, as you have touched us, and so we take the flame and light our prayer candles for ourselves, for those named or remembered, and in solidarity with those who cannot express their concern or celebration. And if you would join me as we pray together. God of mercy and love, we ask that you would help us to see the reality of the world we live in. A world we prefer to shut our eyes to at times, where children suffer and parents can offer no relief, where suffering comes to rich and to poor, where illness and calamity or bereavement and brokenness is around almost every corner. As our eyes are open to your world in need, as our eyes fill with tears and bloodshot from the stress, help us, Lord, like you healed Bartimaeus. Heal us, heal the families around us, heal your church and your world. Heal those we see and those we don't. Amen. Now we have opportunity to share both our offerings and our gifts. So I'm going to pass around the offering plate. A reminder that if you're worshiping with us for the first time, we want you to be our guest. Don't feel under any pressure or obligation to give.
Let me be your servant, let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I might have the grace to let you be my servant. We are pilgrims on a journey, we are travelers on a road. We are here to help each other go along and bear the load. I will hold the Christ light for you in the shadow of your fear. I will hold my hand out to you, speak the peace you long to hear. I will weep when you are weeping, when you laugh, I'll laugh with you. I will share your joy and sorrow till we see this journey through. When we sing to God in heaven, we shall find such harmony. Born of all we've known together, of Christ's love and agony. Won't you let me be your servant, let me be as Christ to you. Pray that I might have the grace to let you be my servant.
And I'll invite you to join me in our responsive prayer dedication. We come with eyes open, longing to really see. Help us to respond with open hearts ready to feel, open hands ready to give, open minds ready to accept, open wallets ready to share, open churches ready to welcome. Receive what we give you now, open to the riches you have already provided us. Use what we offer to open the way for more to know your love. Amen. Stand and join me in our closing number.
All your ways are good, all your ways are sure. I will trust in you alone, higher than my sight, high above my life. I will trust in you alone. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. I will follow you. Who you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If this life I lose, I will follow you. will trust in you alone. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. And I will follow you. Whom you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If this life I lose, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah. When you come, I'll go. When you stay, I'll stay. When you move, I'll move. And I will follow you. Whom you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If this life I lose, and I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah.
I invite you to join me in our responsive sending and blessing. Christ the who, Christ the where, Christ the why. Christ the here, Christ the home, Christ the hope, Christ the heart. Christ be our want, Christ be our way, Christ be our wherefore, Christ be our whole. Christ be in all things,